is a brief description of the stakeholders and the behaviors that the organization considers to be most important. Organizations are now including corporate social responsibility, now abbreviated CSR. It's no longer customer service representative. When you see the abbreviation CSR in today's world, it's now corporate social responsibility. They incorporate that in their value statements. Corporate social responsibility. Ethics. The standard of behavior the organization sets for itself and its employees. Ethical position. The aspects of, there's that word we talked about before, transparency. Big buzzword. I never heard that word 20 years ago or even 15 years ago. Transparency. Everybody wants transparency. I want to be able to see what's going on. I don't want the company hiding anything from me. Okay? Or in government. I don't want the government hiding anything from me. They need to be more transparent. I don't know what happened in the U.S. over the last 5 years. They were supposed to be the most transparent administration in history. Yeah. Yeah. So, the aspects of transparency that the organization will display to its stakeholders. Stakeholders have a stake in the company. They want to have transparency. Its attitudes towards human rights, the natural environment, and the operating conditions required throughout the entire organization. Ethical positions may overlap with organizational value statement. Now we have to remember one thing before we take our break. Anytime we talk about ethics, unfortunately, are not global.
Exactly. Different.
When we talk about human rights, you know, there are human rights and there are human rights. In some countries, they're more like human lefts.
Human left?
It's just a joke. We have to remember, ethical guidelines, okay, are not universal. They really are not. All right? So, what I'm saying is what is ethical in one part of the world may not be ethical in another. Okay? I'm not saying one's right, one's wrong. I'm only saying there are different factors that impact ethical behavior. And the biggest factor that impacts ethics is what?
Culture.
Culture. Who said that? Very good. Culture. Yeah. Ethics are impacted by different cultures. So what's ethical in one culture might not be ethical in another. And the other thing you have to remember, a little twist on words, see if I get it right, that anything that is unethical, okay, may not be illegal. But anything illegal is always unethical. You got that? So just because something's unethical doesn't mean it's illegal. But if it's illegal, it's unethical. It's something to really ponder over tonight. That'll wake you up at 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. What do you mean by that? Let's take a break. About 20 minutes. Good. Stakeholders. Who are our key organizational stakeholders? So, this list will just kind of give you an idea of some of the ones we've talked about. This way you have them on a slide. You don't have to write them down. So obviously staff, excuse me, are stakeholders. Staff meaning employees. In Australia they call employees staff. I never liked that word because it sounds like some kind of infection. Customers are stakeholders, of course, because what we do as a business, whether we provide a product or a service, our customers are impacted. And in turn, we are impacted as a business by what our customers do. So it's kind of a two-way street. Suppliers, a lot of people don't think of suppliers as stakeholders, but they are, because what we do as a business, how much product we buy, okay, is going to impact our suppliers. And suppliers, by the same token, impact us by what they charge us for raw materials. Okay? And we're going to learn, I don't know if it's in this chapter or the next one, sometimes all the material runs together in my head. But if you think of business as inputs and outputs, okay? It's a very common term, you might as well get used to hearing it because you're going to see it in our material. Inputs are the material we buy from suppliers, okay? Raw materials. Output would be what? Yeah, product that we sell. So we input material, okay, into our process flow, sometimes called our value chain, okay? And in the value chain internally, we add value to whatever those inputs were. We have a finished product, and it goes out the door to our customer as an output. Okay, make sense? Okay, it's very basic. We'll see more of that later. Oh, what I was going to say was suppliers. Suppliers, a lot of organizations don't, or a lot of students don't think about it. You know, do suppliers have leverage over the company they're selling material to? You know, in many cases, people think that, you know, the company buying the raw material has all the leverage, but that's not always the case, okay? You know, because with suppliers, if you're a supplier, you're still a business, and you still have to maintain what we call a competitive advantage as a business, even if you're a supplier. So, if you are a critical supplier, meaning that as a company, I can't buy what I buy from you from someone else. It may not be available, okay? It may not be available at all. It may not be available at an affordable price, or it may not be available locally, right? So if I don't buy it from you, I may have to go around the other side of the curve again. Which means, in many cases, suppliers do often have leverage against the organization that they sell to. Okay? And we want to keep that in mind. I always like to use the example of chicken, all right? Because I started to get hungry around this time. So when we think of buying chicken, if I'm Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I buy all of my chicken from Elaine Poultry Company, we use a local company, right? And I'm dependent upon so many kilos of chicken every month that I have to buy to maintain my output, okay, my customers. So one month, Elaine Poultry calls me up and says, we're going to have to cut your order in half this month. And I say, why? Well, because we got a big order from your competitor, Popeye's Chicken, and we have to sell a lot more chicken to them because they're expanding, so we have to cut your order down, okay? So now, my supplier is able to leverage me, okay? So it's not always the company buying the input or the supply that always has all the leverage. Frequently, the suppliers have leverage over the organization as well, so we have to remember that. So part of our strategy as a company might be to identify what? More suppliers, yeah. Because I realized, now see, this gets into the external environment. Was the supplier part of the external environment? Yeah. And we know that the external environment, if we're looking at SWOT analysis, is opportunities and threats. So, if I'm buying everything from only one supplier, and I've only established a credit line with one supplier, is there a threat there, potentially? Absolutely. If they start squeezing me, I don't have anybody else set up to replace that raw material that I need to run my business. So, part of my strategy might be to address that external threat, and the strategy would be, over the next 2 years, identify 3 additional suppliers that can provide me with raw product, or raw material, or whatever the input is. Okay? You see how all this kind of comes together? Right. So, that supplier is a key organizational stakeholder. I'm impacted by what they do, and naturally they're impacted by what I do, because if my business goes down, I buy less material, and that drives their business down. Okay? Creditors. Creditors stakeholders. Yeah, if I'm expanding my business, where do I get the money? I have to go and borrow. So does that make the bank or the finance company a stakeholder in what I do? Absolutely. Unions. You don't have to worry about them too much here, but in other countries where you have unions, they're a stakeholder. They are impacted by what a company does. And the company is often impacted by what they do as well. The local community where I operate my business is certainly a stakeholder. Government agencies are stakeholders because of taxes and also because of regulation. Okay? And owners, the owner of the company, and the owner could be an individual owner, or if it's a large corporation that is publicly traded, who's the owner? Stockholders. Yeah, so you may have many owners. And are they impacted by what I do as a business? Yeah. How are they impacted? Well, their stock is impacted. Their stock price is impacted. The dividends that their stock pays is impacted by how well my business does. So they are stakeholders. So all of those are key organizational stakeholders. Staff, customers, suppliers, creditors, unions, local community, government agencies, and owners. Okay? You should know those. You might see, I haven't decided yet, but I'll let you know for sure at week 4. But you might see a question around that. You know, describe 4 organizational stakeholders, describe 4, and tell me how they are impacted, okay, by company strategy. I'm not saying you're going to get that one. I'm saying that's the kind of question I would ask. What are expectations of stakeholders? Okay. Every stakeholder in an organization has some level of expectation. So, if I'm the owner or I'm a stockholder, obviously my big expectation is what? Return on investment and growth in earnings, money. Okay. If I invest in a company stock, do I want the stock to stay the same or go down? No, I want the stock to increase in value. What increases the stock in value? The company making more money. If I'm an employee, or in Australia, a staff member, hate that. I don't like substitute words. You know, years ago when you used to fly an airline, you had stewardesses, okay? And then all of a sudden they became flight attendants. Okay? When I was a kid, people used to come around and pick up the garbage. We used to call them the garbage man. Oh, you can't use that word anymore. That's too degrading. So today, now they're called collectors of surplus commodities. Customers. Customers have to have, their expectation is satisfaction with price, with quality, and with service. That's the expectation of a customer as a stakeholder. So, if I'm not providing them with the best price, best quality, best service, what are they going to do? They're going to go somewhere else, and I lose my competitive advantage. Suppliers, their satisfaction comes with me paying my bills, and also what future sales potential can they anticipate from my business growing. A creditor, very simply, their expectation is my ability to pay my debts, nothing else. Unions are concerned about the willingness of my organization to bargain with the union in a fair manner. Okay. They have other expectations as well, but that's one of the bigger ones. Local community, they're looking at involvement of organization members in local affairs, and they're looking at lack of damage to their environment. So they're very concerned about my operations in their community. There's other things they're concerned about. On the positive side, they're concerned about, am I providing employment for people in the community? If I provide employment for people, that means they get money, pay. And what do they do with that pay? They spend it. Where? In the community. So to the community, having a company or companies in the community is a big deal as a stakeholder. I generate jobs, the jobs generate money, and the money is spent within the community, and that helps all the community businesses, or business owners, or whatever. The other thing that the community gets out of my company is taxes. They tax me as a business, okay? I get taxed. I pay property taxes in that community, okay? So that's a big variable and a big expectation of local communities. The downside, of course, is they don't want me to pollute their rivers, their streams. They don't want me to pollute the surrounding terra firma, and they certainly don't want me polluting the air. So there are ups and downs to expectations of the community. Government agencies, of course, their expectations that I'm going to comply with all laws. Safety laws, health laws, employee laws, wage and hour laws, and environmental laws. And if I don't, I have to worry about penalties and reprimands. Now, government expectations is I'm going to avoid penalties and reprimands. That's what your book says their expectation is. Okay. Is that really true? I don't know. A big piece of market share in Europe and Asia is, that's definitely a competitive advantage. So we look for resources, organization structure, and type of competition that we engage. So what kind of structure do we have as a company? Okay? Are we a learning organization? Are we a flat organization? Are we a tall organization? Do we have many hierarchical levels in our organization? Or do we have a flatter organization with less levels of management? Some companies with less levels of management find themselves able to compete better than smaller organizations. We also have to match our organization's culture with its competencies. So once we find out what we do best, how does that match up with the organization's culture? The organizational culture, which is a whole other class, is driven by a variety of things. Number one, it's driven by individual employee culture, is part of organization culture. And organizational culture is composed of its value systems, its ethical policies, its philosophies, and its ways of doing business. That's what makes organization culture or company culture. How many people here feel, if you will, they have a separate company culture where they work? For those of you that work. You have a company culture, okay? And it's tied into the company belief systems, company philosophies, company ethics, company values. All of those combined create a company culture, okay? And company culture differs from one company to the next, okay? It's like DNA. It's like a company's DNA is their culture, okay? So that's what they're talking about. How do we match that with what we do well? Your book has something in there called a resource-based view, or RBV. It's in this book. It's in the textbook. They spent a whole bunch of pages on it. We will. I'll tell you what it is, because it's in your material. You don't need to know this for your exam. Resource-based view. A perspective on developing organizational strategy that focuses on the organization's key resources as a source of competitive advantage. Key resources. Okay? A competitive advantage can be derived from resources and capabilities that are valuable, that are rare, that are difficult to imitate, and that are not substitutable. Must be another Australian word. How do you say substitutable? Real fast 6 times. Okay. Substitutable. Meaning, I gain competitive advantage by having resources and production capabilities that are rare, that can't be copied or imitated. Okay? My technology, that's probably the biggest one. Who has technology? If you have to think of a company that has very rare technology that isn't easily imitated by other competitors, who would you pick? Apple. Yeah. Their products get copied eventually. Okay? But as a technology leader, okay, their strength, their resource-based strength is their technology. They've got it, the other guy don't. Which is why they're market leaders. Okay? If you think of it in that fashion, people that have the resources, maybe that have the most talented people, that's a resource, that's a strength, that's a rarity, that can't be substituted by someone else. Oh yeah, that company has some of the best technical people in the industry. Okay? It's a rarity. Can't be substituted, can't be imitated. Or that company has some of the best engineering, or that company has some of the best IT, or that company has just some of the best technology. Whatever the case may be. All of those are resource-based views. Difficult to imitate. So, what happens in business when you have market leaders, okay, and then you have market followers. So if you look at Apple as an example, Apple was the market leader with the iPad. Who was the market follower? Samsung. So, Apple's strategy, okay, is to be the technology and market leader. We're going to come out with the new, unique, rare technology products, okay? Does Samsung have a strategy too? What's their strategy? In essence, yeah. We're going to be the market imitators. Let Apple's got the resource strength. Let them do the development. Let them do the marketing. Let them do the penetration of the market. And once they establish the new products, our strategy, because we don't have the resources they have, so our strategy as a competitor is, we'll just imitate what they come out with. Maybe we'll have a more cost-effective product. Maybe we'll have a product that might have more features. But that's their strategy. Is there anything wrong with that? No, because you have to find what's my competitive edge. Apple is a heck of a tough company to compete against. So you have to find the niche. How do I compete against an Apple? Well, I really can't. Because from a resource-based view, they're the leaders. They got it all. Okay?
But Apple had the race against Samsung.
Yeah, right, touch screen. Wasn't it? Touch screen case? Yes. Well, that's in addition. Yeah. But the point I'm making, Samsung's strategy may be to be the market imitator. And that's fine, because that works for them. Okay? And then you have the third level, what I call the bottom feeders. All right? You get all the Chinese companies like Kobe, and then they start to mass produce everything. They come out with the real cheapy stuff. Okay? So there's actually like 3 levels there. Okay? You have leaders, you have followers, and I just call the last level bottom feeders. Okay? But you see my point. That ties into this, okay? Resource-based view. Who has the resources? Who's the market leader? And what strategy do we develop around that? Yeah, we have resources. Samsung has tremendous resources. They've got a lot of talent. Okay? Right now, their best competitive advantage is to be the follower, the imitator, the substituter. Okay? That's what we're talking about, right? As an example. So, strategies for different levels of the organization. In this slide, in this chapter of your book, they only have 3. There are actually 5 that we'll actually see over the course of this program. But in this one, you have corporate level strategy, which is the broadest strategy level. They decide where to compete and what we're going to develop. That's at the corporate level. Okay. The next level is business unit level strategy. Now, another name for the business unit is division. Okay? Some of you may call it divisions. So the division unit or business unit level, they compete in a specific market. Their advantage is over rivals in chosen market. So, we'll look at General Electric as an example. General Electric has a corporate structure. Okay? At the corporate structure, they decide a very broad strategy level. They decide where they're going to compete, and they're going to decide what they're going to develop. And they push that out. Okay? Then it goes down to the divisional level. You have to remember, does every division of General Electric make the same product? They're all different. General Electric is a very diversified organization. Okay? So, at one divisional level, they may make, they don't anymore, but we'll use it as an example. And so at one division level, they make appliances, General Electric washers, dryers, dishwashers, televisions. They've sold it off since then, but we'll use it as an example. Another division of General Electric, which they've also, I think, gotten rid of, was light bulbs. All they did was light bulbs. Another division of General Electric was something called GE Credit Corporation, which was a finance group. They didn't really manufacture anything, okay? Their business was credit cards or just general store credit. When you're going to buy a car, you financed it through General Electric Credit Corporation, called GECC. I don't know if there's two.
They have medical.
Huh?
Medical.
Yeah. That's where I'm going next. You're stealing my thunder. Then their next division was the Medical Products Division. That's actually their newest. And where are they competing there? Their biggest product in the medical products is imaging. Okay? Imaging equipment. So, the point here, if we're looking at business unit strategy, corporate level sets the general strategy, but each division of General Electric, is there any correlation between washing machines and imaging equipment? No. They have nothing in common. All right? Other than you plug both of them in. The point being, many years ago, even before, probably around the time Jack Welch took over as CEO of General Electric, he realized that there has to be a segregation of divisional structure, okay? You can't have a one-size-fits-all strategy. You can't come out with a corporate strategy and shove it down each division's throats. Why? Because it don't work. You can set a general tone, but each division has to be able to make its own strategic decisions, okay? They went through what's from a centralized business, meaning corporate controls everything, to a decentralized business, which means each division controls its own fate. All right? So instead of having a corporate marketing, a corporate sales, corporate engineering, corporate R&D, corporate IT, each division within that framework has its own hierarchy. Why? Because how I market imaging machines in the medical area is certainly going to be a lot different than the way I market light bulbs. Markets are different, market tactics are going to be different, geographic locations are going to be different. There's no correlation, see? No correlation between marketing imaging machines and marketing light bulbs or marketing appliances, okay? It's two totally different animals. And Welch realized this early in his career, which is why he turned GE into such an economic powerhouse, right? Because he decentralized everything so that every division controlled the strategic plan for their own product and service. Okay? Does that make sense? It makes a lot of sense. Now, some organizations maintain a centralized theme where corporate still controls everything, and it may work for them, but it doesn't work for everything. The one thing you always want to remember is the phrase, there is never a one-size-fits-all philosophy. It doesn't fly. It doesn't work. The other problem that exists in this framework, if you have an organization that has 6 divisions and they're all operating within North America, you may be able to maintain more of a centralized control. You may, depending on what those divisions make and how related they are. Okay? But when you become a multinational enterprise, and you're operating in different parts of the globe, not only are you manufacturing different products, light bulbs, imaging machines, washers, dryers, and a finance group who doesn't manufacture anything, you're also located in different parts of the globe. So, what starts to impact you? The big C word. Culture. Culture. Okay? Does culture impact how I run each division? You better believe it. The way I run a division in Walla Walla, Washington is going to be a whole lot different than the way I run that division in Dubai. Okay? Even if the product's the same, there's still going to be a culturalization issue. And if the products are different, it becomes even more pronounced. So, companies like GE realized early that we have to recognize that we can't have corporate control over multiple product divisions, and we can't have corporate control over multinationals operating around the globe. It doesn't work. Which is why they appoint high-level people over sections. So you have a vice president of operations, Middle East and Africa, a vice president in Europe, and so on and so on. Because there's no one control from corporate. You can't do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't fly. Right? So you've gone, when you went to globalization, part of the globalization theory or process is you have to have a respect for the general culture of the region you're operating in, because, as we mentioned before, things like ethical practice, value systems, people, interactions with employees, everything changes. So globalization has come up with, actually has evolved into a totally new word called globalization. Where you look at the globalization and you look at the local culture, and you get globalization. And that's where a lot of these companies are headed now. Okay? And that's all part of this process. So from business unit or divisional, you get to the functional level, which we mentioned before, functional or tactical. The people that have to run the business. So resources support other people. People, skills, knowledge, process. Who's at the functional level? Marketing, sales, human resources, engineering, okay? Those are all the functional people, okay, that do the work that's done for the business unit, and eventually everything the business unit does rolls back up to the corporate level. Sometimes you will find corporate level strategy and business unit strategy similar, can be similar, okay, depending on how diversified the business units are. Everybody got that? I'm tired now. So much energy on that slide. We would be remiss, of course, if we didn't mention everybody's favorite, the public sector, okay? If you work for a nonprofit or government, how does that come into strategic management? There's no difference. As I said earlier, if you provide a service, you still need a strategy, okay? If I'm growing my government business and I'm looking for new ways of serving my customers, in this case customers of the general public, I have to find ways of being very much more efficient. So I look at three different aspects. This is from Miles and Snow. Miles and Snow looked at the public sector and strategy in the public sector. And they said that everyone in the public sector, which again is government or nonprofit organizations, fall within these three categories. You can be a prospector. A prospector scans the environment, they find opportunities for change, and they become more transparent. That's called a prospector. And it's found in public sector or nonprofit. Or you can be a defender. Defenders have a tendency to protect incumbency. What's incumbency? Incumbency are the people that are in the jobs right now and want to hold on to it forever. Okay? Protect incumbency. Resist any attempt at that horrible word change. And they have a monopolistic philosophy. Our way is the best way. We don't need change, and I want to protect my job. Okay? What falls into the defender system? Probably in this country, the WASPA system falls in there very nicely. Okay? That falls into the defenders. The last one is reactors. Government or private or nonprofit will change only when we're forced to change. Okay? We react. We react to threats of privatization, and we're sensitive to stakeholder demands. What is privatization? Why does someone in the nonprofit or particularly in the government sector react to the threat of privatization? Okay? Privatization is when private business takes over what was once a government function. Okay? As an example, in the state of Indiana, they have a system of interstate highway systems. And those interstate highway systems are what we call toll roads. So every so many miles you drive, you have to stop at a booth, throw 50 cents or $1 in the basket or hand it to the toll collector, and then you continue on your merry way. And every so many years, it seems like those toll booths get closer and closer together. So, the people that work those toll booths are government or public sector employees. Okay? The people that maintain those roads are government, public sector employees. Everything that has to do with how those roads are maintained, run, money collected, are all fall under public sector. Snow removal, repairs to the road, and so on and so on and so on. And what happened in Indiana is the tolls keep increasing. Okay, so what you used to pay a quarter, 25 cents, is now maybe up to $1. And what's happening to the service side? It's declining. Potholes in the road, snow isn't being removed, maintenance stinks, toll booth collectors are nasty if you don't have the right change. You give somebody a $10 bill and they throw it back at you. Don't you have anything smaller than that? Okay? I've been there, this is true. So the whole system was horrible. They're collecting more and more money, but who's the end user? Who's the customer? The public, the people that use those roads. Okay? And the entire interstate road system in the state of Indiana was going broke. Why? Why was it going broke? Because the money that was being collected was being used to pay for salaries and benefits of all the government workers that work on the road authority. And why are those benefits so high and pay rates so high? Because they're union. Okay? So every 3 years they negotiate a bigger and better benefits. The politicians just sign off on them. What do they care? They give them what they want, which is raise the tolls on the road to pay for it. Okay? So this was becoming an issue. Okay? Service was getting worse and worse. So what did they do? They kept threatening the road authority in Indiana. You've got to become more efficient, more transparent, find opportunities for change, and develop a prospector type of mentality. They didn't. They stayed in the defender section. And then they moved into the reactor section. And what happened was they had a new governor came in, a guy by the name of Mitch Daniels, and you know what he did? He took the entire interstate road system in the state of Indiana and he sold it to a private company. So now, the private company runs the road system, collects the tolls, the level of service has gone way up, no more traffic jams, no potholes, no repairs in the middle of the day, snow is being removed, the road's being maintained, toll booths, the toll collection is actually decreased in cost. And the people that run the whole program are all private industry employees. And all the government workers are gone. And they're paid less. And they're turning a profit. Okay? That's privatization. Okay? That's the difference between government run and privatization. So, what scares the bejeebies out of government people, yes? I can't hear you. There's a big noise?
Yes.
What's the big noise?
Somebody's talking.
No, so I can hear you. Yeah, we need quiet because people need to hear the course. If you want to have a conversation, please go out in the back and have some concern for people. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. So I couldn't hear you. Thank you for telling me. So anyway, the point being, the threat of privatization is a reactionary thing.